Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Erewash series. Erewash is one of the 9 subdivisions of the county of Derbyshire. There are 14 civil parishes within it. Let's see which one we're in today. Okay, welcome back to Erewash everybody yet again. Now last week you saw Morley, which was quite a difficult one to find my way around and know where to show you, basically, because most of it was done in the car. I couldn't really walk it. Here, it's a bit of a different story. I'm beginning this one at somewhere called Commoner's Lot. And this you'll find in one of the 2 settlements in this place. You'll get 2 Strava maps today. This is the larger of the 2. This is Stanley Common, and it's part of the parish of Stanley and Stanley Common. This Erewash episode is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find a link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome to Stanley and Stanley Common, perhaps one of the easier ones to tell you about in Erewash. This is Top Club, an ex-servicemen's club opposite Glendon Street on the A609. Both that and Commoner's Lot, where I was to begin, lie at the northern end of Stanley Common, although it's not that long ago that this area went by a different name. Once again, we're in a mining area. You see, this northern end of the modern day Stanley Common has been redeveloped. There used to be 4 rows of terraced housing here for pit workers. When the pits were here, this part of the village was called Smalley Common. Most of it has now been turned into a brand new estate and amalgamated with Stanley Common. So much so that now Smalley Common as a name doesn't exist on modern maps. It's a piece of Erewash history that's mostly been lost to the sands of time, but there are still some clues around as to its past. There are a number of footpaths which link the various parts of Stanley Common together, making this very much an easy route to follow. Come with me down here and let's see what's around. At the end of Hayeswood Road we have the Eventide Community Hall, which serves as Stanley Common's village hall. There's another village hall in the other settlement here, Stanley itself. Hayeswood is a reference to Morley Hayeswood, which got a brief mention last week at the end of the Morley episode. The parish boundary adjoins it to the west. The old Smalley Common village existed for almost 100 years. In true mining area fashion, it rapidly expanded in the early 1900s, and up to the late 1970s, it was a distinct and separate settlement. It's hard to define where the boundary might have been between it and the old Stanley Common settlement, if you'll excuse the turn of phrase. After walking down Hayeswood Road, we come to Common Lane, and now we're definitely in Stanley Common. We're at the Mews, and on the left there's a sign for a local B&B. It's got to be one of the best names for a street I've ever seen. That's Nagglegate Close. Naggle, N-A-G-G-L-E, Gate Close. Now we're going down the crescent, which will follow all the way to where it bends back on itself. At that point, a footpath links us back to the A609 Belper Road. Historical records tell us coal extraction in the area is something that wasn't new in the late 1800s and early 1900s. This part of Derbyshire has had workings since at least 1650. It was recorded that a man named Patrick Richardson took a lease of the coals from the Sacheverells of Morley. Most early workings were at High Yates Closes, a group of fields to the north. In 1784, records make mention of this road, the modern-day A609, as being a turnpike. There are also some mentions of a working windmill in 1880, but no traces of that remain. The A609 is Stanley Common's major thoroughfare, a linear village primarily now. This has developed a number of facilities along it, like for example this garage. There are shops and pubs as well. This is the Bateman's Arms, which from the outside is a traditional looking pub. The interior is decidedly different, with a very contemporary feel and decoration. Bin men are out again. I wonder if these are the same guys who we saw in West Hallam. We're walking back to the north now towards Smalley Common, and the road is a slight incline. Our next major stop is the village's recreation ground. Yes, there was an adventure trail here, but no, I was not about to attempt it. This is Stanley Common's largest open green space, although stay tuned because there's more of this to come. The village's past hasn't been totally forgotten. The thumbnail for this video came from the side of this coal truck, which stands next to the recreation ground. Across from the recreation ground, there's some shops. There's also two narrow streets leading off it called the Rope Walk and the Old Brickyard, other industries associated with the area. A few more paces brings us to the village school. An 1881 map shows very little on the left-hand side of the road apart from another lane called the Rope Walk and a school for girls. Here's some shops which are bang opposite the school, one of which is a post office. In all, Belper Road generally has most of the things considered essential to modern life. So even though this is a hill, it's not a severe one, it's just a gentle incline, which is a good thing. I've only really got one more thing to catch in Stanley Common now, and that's the church, which is along here, as well as, of course, a bus stop, number 59, towards Ilkeston. That's what stops here. The only church in Stanley Common is this one, the United Church of All Saints. It was built in 1913 as an Anglican church that merged with Stanley Common Methodist Church in 2003 to become what it is today. Outside there's a notice board, and you all know the drill with this by now, so let's concentrate more on the church. Once again, this is a WSSM member, and it has a close relationship with both St Andrew's Church and Stanley Methodist Church in the adjacent village of Stanley. We're almost around the entire village now, although there's a couple more things I found interesting, both of which I have no real idea about. One of them is a pure guess. These houses are an educated guess. I found some information about a former school, Smalley Common Council School, which is apparently now houses. Is this where it was, Stanley people? The pure guess is this street and another close by, Arella Fields Close and Simon Fields Close. Were these local people with a story to tell? Let me know about both things if you do. Okay, last thing to see in Stanley Common is the Platter Cafe, Bar and Bistro right here. There you go. And the next turning on the left should be where I started, on Glendon Street. So it's time to move on to Stanley. Okay, so now I'm in Stanley and I'm in the shade as well, which is a good thing on a warm day like this. I'm right outside the church, which is here, and that's directly opposite the entrance to Stanley Hall. Now all I've got to do is work out which way I'm going. Am I going that way or am I going that way? Let's go that way. So now we're in Stanley Village, and this house here is the vicarage. Stanley is not too dissimilar to its northerly counterpart, but it feels much less like a mining community. That said, it was still a mining area. There were many pits locally, all of which had closed down by the end of the 1960s. Stanley also has several farms and a disused quarry. Stanley holds a village carnival. This year it took place on July the 2nd. There's a bit more about this a little further along Station Road, which, by the way, is a reference to the station seen at the end of the Dale Abbey episode. Stanley nowadays isn't anything to do at all with mining or with the railways. This is essentially a commuter village now for Derby and Ilkeston. It does have some shops of its own, like the ones seen here. There's a post office along here too, the latest of 3 in the village. Originally, the first post office stood in Morley Lane. Then in 1934 it moved to the corner of Station Road and Morley Lane, and since 1979 it's been situated here, further along Station Road, not far from the junction with New Street. So look at this gala that's going to be here on July the 2nd has got a Lancaster fly past. Now of course, being from Lincolnshire, I've seen the Lancaster bombers go over my head plenty of times. That's why it's called Bomber County, Lincolnshire. But obviously they get out here as well, and that's good to see. All the amenities are laid out along that one main road which bends left and right several times. There are a few side streets built in the last 50 years to accommodate an expanding population here. For example, this is Coronation Road, which we're heading up right now. It bends back on itself eventually, becoming Park Avenue. At the end is the Stanley Village Recreation Ground. This is much bigger than the recreation ground at Smalley Common. It would appear there are sports played here on a regular basis, something Stanley Commons didn't seem large enough to sustain. Okay, I refuse the adventure trail in Stanley Common. I'll do this one. Not all of it, I'm just going to basically do that and that, and we'll see how far we go. Probably not very far. Ooh, I'm going to fall off. I already think I'm going to fall off. Oh, this is bouncy. It's got tyres under it. Wow, that's difficult. Oh, we're going to make it though. Oh, should we try this? This will be difficult with one hand. No, that's not happening. That's as far as I'm going to go. Hey, not bad though. That was difficult, that with the tyres. This is Stanley's Village Hall, run by the Stanley Village Community Association. The venue has a main room which is available for hire, and it holds a capacity of up to 100 people. Running adjacent to the Village Hall is a footpath which will take us towards an area which at one time was vastly different from what it looks like today. Where I'm standing here would have been where the railway, mentioned at the end of the Dale Abbey episode, would have run through the parish towards the station at West Hallam. The nearby station was originally called Stanley, but its name was quickly changed to West Hallam for Dale Abbey to avoid confusion with another station in Yorkshire. Let's head back now. At this point, the footpath forks. You can either turn right and go over the stile, or you can go through the gate and head straight on. Now, bearing in mind I don't like stiles, which do you think I took? These footpaths are quite well trodden. I've met at least 3 people whilst I've been on them up here to the north of the village. Derbyshire always has been one of those places that's good for rambling, but ironically none of the people I've met were actually ramblers. There was a guy walking his dog, there was a couple just out for a stroll, and someone with a letter in their hand, probably going off somewhere to the north of the village with it to give it to somebody, I don't know. But yeah, they are very well trodden, these paths. It's good actually, it's good to see footpaths be used like this, because you know, public rights of way are there for a reason. You know, they provide access for people to various places. Sometimes I get a bit frustrated when there isn't one somewhere where there really ought to be one, but yeah, if they're here, make use of them, people. One for the genealogists, I strongly recommend checking out the link in the description to the Stanley One Place study, where a lot of the family names out here are discussed in detail. Now we're back onto the road, and across the way here is a rather large chapel which was founded in 1827. By all accounts, this is still active and hasn't yet been converted into a dwelling. Around the bend we have the one and only village pub, the White Hart. There was another pub called the Bridge Inn on the road to Derby, but that's now a house called Bridge Cottage. The bridge which gave the pub its name is a modest affair crossing the Stanley Brook. It's retained its inn sign though. Our route doesn't pass it, but I did find a picture of it and you know where that'll be. We've come all the way around Stanley Hall. It's to our left here behind a low brick wall. Believe it or not, I found next to nothing about it, so as halls go, that one remains a mystery to me. Regardless, the walk brings us to the War Memorial. As far as I can tell, this is the only one within Stanley and Stanley Common's boundaries. There are 10 names here in total, 6 for World War I and 4 for World War II. So when I rounded the bend there, I noticed the skull markings on the road here. I'm thinking to myself, where's the school? I can't see a school anywhere. It's very well hidden. It's down here. It's Stanley St Andrew's Church of England Primary School. It's down this drive here. It's very small by the looks of it. And of course it's St Andrew's because that refers to the church, which is up here, and that's our last stop in Stanley and Smalley Common. Let's go and check this out. St Andrew's is of 12th century origin and contains some Norman remnants like the door on the south side. It was much restored in 1876, and again this is a WSSM member. It has an attractive interior with a Jacobean pulpit and screen. In the porch there's the local book exchange. Once again, Erewash hasn't really had much in the way of old red phone boxes for these. As much as I would have liked to get inside this one, it was locked, but no worries because there's a few bits in the churchyard that'll easily interest the vast majority of you out there. On the 12th of July 1942, a Wellington bomber crashed close to the village. Arguably Stanley's largest bit of wartime history, there's an annual service to commemorate it. It may even explain the flypast. And on the gates of the churchyard there's a plaque detailing their restoration, which took place in 2012 in memory of Daniel Willits. And across the road at the gates of Stanley Hall, that, my friends, is Stanley and Stanley Common. And you guys need today's picture bit now. There's still quite a bit I haven't covered here. It's quite a large place, Stanley and Stanley Common. It covers a fair chunk of area. So here that comes right about now. I swear those flies that were attacking me at the end of the Morley episode have followed me all the way around Stanley and Stanley Common. I seem to have been plagued by them. I have no idea why, but it's probably because it's so warm and I'm sweating quite a lot. But thankfully this one has come to a close, so they might disappear now. I've 3 left to do in Erewash, and this district is racing towards its conclusion. I've enjoyed it so far, and the last 3 are the biggest 3, so hopefully, go away, hopefully they won't be too hard to cover. This has been the parish of Stanley and Stanley Common, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.